Hello, my wonderful children. How are you doing? I'm happy to have you online. But before we continue, how was the test? Were you able to finish before the time elapsed? Great. Did you see your score? Excellent. Excellent. If you have not performed well, don't feel bad. Is that taken? Don't feel bad. Don't be sad. Taken? Great. It's a continuous thing. We are still going to do another one. Another phase is coming. So if you have not done well for the last two, you have not done well in the last one, make sure you go over what we have learned. Go over them again. And if you have not copied your notes, go and do so. We have notes and videos on the net. So as you are watching the videos, make sure you write your notes. The two, marry the two. Is that taken? Good. Today, the subject we have is mathematics. Mathematics. I love mathematics. I love Mrs. Ajayi. You know, mathematics is a friend. Mathematics is a friend. I've told you everything in this life is all about mathematics calculation. Is that taken? They're wonderful. Wonderful. These are my lovely children. And the topic we have today is shapes. Shapes. Plane shapes. We have plane shapes. We have solid shapes. But for this class, we are looking at plane shapes. Now let's look at our learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, each of the pupils should be able to define plane shape, state the attributes of plane shapes, identify plane shapes, identify symmetrical objects, identify symmetrical plane shapes, define as symmetrical objects, asymmetrical objects. Now let's go one after the other. What is a plane shape? A plane shape is a round shape. A closed, two-dimensional. Two-dimensional means a shape that have length and breadth or width, but no depth. No depth. Two-dimensional means a shape that have length and breadth, or you call it width, but no depth. If it has depth, then it is a three-dimensional. But we are looking at plane shape that is a two-dimensional or flat figure. Flat figure means it can either roll or slide. Can either roll or slide. A plane shape is a closed, two-dimensional or flat figure. Attributes of plane shapes. Attributes of plane shapes. How do I know if I see a shape? How do I differentiate a shape that is plane from solid shapes? Can I differentiate a plane shape from a solid shape? Number one, the number of sides. The number of sides. The number of sides or corners. The number of sides or corners. Number two, the size. The size. Then number three, slide and roll. Remember I said a flat figure can either slide or roll. Can either slide or it rolls. So these are the attributes of a plane shape. A plane shape, to differentiate a shape, to identify a shape, you consider these things. How many number of sides or corner does it have? Then the size and slide and roll and so on and so forth. But for your level, we'll stop at these three. The number of sides or corners, the size, slide, and roll. Now, let's look at what side or corner is. Explanation on the attributes of plane shapes, sides, or corners. Plane shapes can include sides. Plane shapes can include sides. Sides are straight lines that make up the shape. Straight lines that make up the shape. You can see the straight line from where this, from where this arrow is to this end is a side. A side is a straight line. A straight line. Then we have corners. Corners are where two sides come together. Where two sides come together, you can see a side, another side, and the last side. How many sides can you see? How many sides can you see here? How many sides does it have? How many sides? 4. Then we have the corners as where two sides come together. Where two sides come together. We have this corner where two sides come together. Can you see another corner where two sides come together? Another corner where two sides come together. And the last corner where two sides come together. How many corners does it have? 4. 4 corners. So to know if a shape is a plane shape, you watch out for the number of sides. The number of sides and corners. The number of sides and corners. As this shape is, it is a plane shape. A plane shape, a two-dimensional shape. A two-dimensional shape. It's a flat shape. Now, let's look at another shape, a triangle. A triangle is a plane shape. A triangle is a plane shape with 3 sides and 3 corners. Can we watch out for the sides? A side is a straight line. A side is a straight line. Can you see this straight line as a side, another side, and the last side? Then a corner is where two sides meet. Where two sides meet. So it is having 1, 2, and 3 corners, and as well as 3 sides. The next shape we are looking at is a rectangle. A rectangle is a plane shape. Why is it a plane shape? Good, it's a two-dimensional and it's a flat shape. And the attributes, how many sides does it have? The sides are 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the corners where two sides meet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 corners as well. 4 corners as well. Now, these are the attributes of a plane shape. It must have sides. It must have sides and corners. Sides are the straight line that make up the shape. The sides are the straight lines that make up the shape. While corners are where two sides meet. Where two sides come together is a corner. Another shape that we can say that is a plane shape is a circle. A circle is a plane shape. Is a plane shape because it can roll. Remember we said another attribute is it can roll and slide. We said the attributes are the number of sides or corners, its size, then slide and roll. A circle is a plane shape because it can roll. It can roll. Now, another thing we are to learn in this class is line of symmetry. What is line of symmetry? Line of symmetry is the imaginary line. Is the imaginary line where you could fold the image and both halves match exactly. Line of symmetry is the imaginary line, where you could fold the image and both halves match exactly. The imaginary line can be vertical line. What is a vertical line? A vertical line is a line one draws from upward to downward. The imaginary line can be vertical line. And what is a vertical line? A vertical line is a line one draws from upward to downward. That is vertical line. Or horizontal line. Horizontal line, a line drawn from left to right. A line drawn from left to right is an horizontal line, while a line drawn from upward to downward is a vertical line. So the imaginary line can be vertical or horizontal line. We said line of symmetry is the imaginary line where you can fold the image and both halves match exactly. Now that line which is the imaginary line can be vertical or horizontal. Can be vertical or horizontal. You can find if a shape has a line of symmetry by folding it. When the folded part sits perfectly on top, all edges matching, then the folded line is a line of symmetry. Can you see the shape on the screen? Can you see this imaginary line, the vertical line? That is the line of symmetry. The line of symmetry dividing this circle. The line of symmetry dividing this circle into two equal parts. Or you take the horizontal line, dividing it into two equal parts. Or you can take it in a slant way. To divide it into two equal parts. Then the line that is dividing the image into two equal parts, that the two halves can match perfectly, is line of symmetry. Is line of symmetry. We said when you can fold, can you see this shape? This is what? What type of shape is this? A circle. This is a circle. If you can fold this shape into two equal parts and the edges matching perfectly, then this imaginary line is a line of symmetry. This imaginary line is a line of symmetry, and you can have as many as possible. I can still fold it that the edges will match perfectly. Can you see the way I'm folding it? That the edges will match perfectly. Then you can see that the first half is a marriage of the other half. It looks like the other half. Then this is a line of symmetry dividing this shape into two equal parts, or more than two, is a line of symmetry. Can you see the imaginary line that has come up on our shape? The first line, then the other line. You can as well go, you can see the vertical line, the horizontal line. I can go in a slant way. To draw my line of symmetry. But the condition is the two halves must match perfectly. Can you see another line of symmetry that I'm having now on the screen, on the shape? Can you see the line of symmetry I'm having on the shape now? You can as well go this way. All you just need to watch out for is the two halves must match perfectly. The two halves must match perfectly. To get your line of symmetry, the two halves must match perfectly. Okay? Now let's go to the screen again and see what we have on the screen. You can see the circle on the screen. And how many lines of symmetry do we have on it? Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. You can have it 6 times. You can have it as many times as you want. All you just need to put into consideration is the 2 halves must match perfectly. The 2 halves must match perfectly. It's not only for plane shape that you can have line of symmetry. Do you understand? It's not only for shapes. It's not only for plane shape that you can have line of symmetry. You can have line of symmetry on objects. On objects. Figures or shapes that have exact resemblance. The marriage of itself to its other parts when divided into 2 or more equal parts are called symmetrical. Symmetrical objects are objects or shapes that have exact resemblance to its other parts when divided into 2 or more equal parts. Can you see this face? Can you see this face? This face, when you bisect this face, you are dividing it into 2 equal parts. You have one eye to one side, you have the other eye to the other side. Can you see that it is resembling each other? The 2 parts are resembling each other. So if the 2 parts are resembling each other, you have mouth here. By the time you divide it into 2, you have mouth here and you have mouth on the other side. By the time you divide an object into 2 equal parts and the 2 parts resemble each other perfectly, then that object is symmetrical. That object is symmetrical. It's a symmetrical object. A symmetrical object. Now, by the time you divide an object or a shape into 2 equal parts, and the 2 parts do not resemble, the 2 parts don't resemble each other, then it is known as what? Asymmetrical objects. As a shape or object that do not resemble each other when divided into 2 parts are called asymmetric. Can you see this object? By the time we divide this object into 2, you will see that this part is larger than this other parts. Then the 2 parts are not divided equally. If the 2 parts are not divided equally, then it is called asymmetric objects. But if the 2 parts are divided equally, that the 2 parts can resemble each other perfectly, then it is called symmetric objects. Like I said you can draw your line of symmetry. You can draw your line of symmetry either vertically or horizontally. Your imaginary line can be vertical from upward downward, or horizontal from the left to the right. From the left to the right. That is line of symmetry. Let's quickly go through what we have learned. Let's summarize what we have learned. We said a plane shape is a round, 2-dimensional. 2-dimensional means it has length and breadth or width, and it does not have depth. If it has depth, then it is 3-dimensional. If it has depth, it is 3-dimensional. Is a closed 2-dimensional or flat figure. We said 2-dimensional means it is a shape that has length and breadth or width, but no depth. Now the length is the line from the right to the left, while the breadth is the one from the top to the bottom. And closed means a circle is a round shape. Closed means round shape. Closed means round shape. And we said the attribute for you to differentiate or to identify a shape is the number of sides. The number of sides or corner. If it does not have corner, it is not a plane shape. Then it is a solid shape. An example is a cylinder, a cone, a cylinder, a prism. A prism is a solid shape. A cylinder is a solid shape. But a plane shape will have number of sides or corners. A number of sides or corners. Then it must be able to slide or roll. It must be able to slide or roll. Explanation on the slides, on the sides or corner. Sides is the straight line that make up the shape. While corner is the two sides. The two sides that come together is a corner. A corner. Like the example that I cited earlier in the example of cylinder. Can you see that a cylinder does not have a corner? A cylinder is like the tin of milk in the house. That your tin of milk is a cylinder. Does it have a corner? No. No. So it is not a two-dimensional shape. It is not a two-dimensional shape, but it is a three-dimensional shape or a solid shape. A two-dimensional shape or a solid shape. Then we looked at examples of plane shape. We looked at trapezium. This is a trapezium. The imaginary line dividing it now into two equal parts is the line of symmetry. Is the line of symmetry. And you can draw your line of symmetry either vertical or horizontal. But the thing you must note is the two equal parts that you are dividing the object into must be the same, must resemble. If they resemble each other, then it is what? Symmetric. If it does not resemble each other, it is what? Asymmetric. Is that taken? Good. You can as well, we said your line of symmetry, you can have your line of symmetry. What type of shape is this? What type of shape is this? Good. This is a square. This is a square. I can have my line of symmetry on this square. I can have my line of symmetry on this square by dividing this object into two equal parts. Can you see my line of symmetry coming forth? Because I have divided the shape into two equal parts. And I can as well divide it this way. And I can as well divide, making sure that the edges, you make sure the edges match. The edges must match perfectly. The edges must match perfectly. This is another line of symmetry dividing this object into equal parts. And this is an horizontal line, while you have this as the vertical line. I can have another shape. Another shape. What type of shape is this? Good. This is a rectangle. A rectangle. I can divide my rectangle with an imaginary line, which is the line of symmetry, making sure that the edges match perfectly. This is my line of symmetry. My line of symmetry, dividing this shape into two equal parts. Into two equal parts. And I can as well divide it this way. All you need to do is to make sure that the edges, you make sure that the edges match perfectly. The edges match perfectly to get your line of symmetry. Can you see my line of symmetry with an horizontal line dividing the shape into two equal parts? Dividing the shape into two equal parts. I want to believe you have enjoyed the class. The select points that you have to learn in this class is the attributes of plane shapes. And number one is what? Sides and corners. Number two, size. Number 3, roll and slide. And we said a plane shape is a round, two-dimensional, or flat shape. And we also talked about line of symmetry. Line of symmetry is an imaginary line dividing an object into two equal parts. And if after dividing the object into two equal parts, the two parts resemble each other perfectly, then that object is symmetric. But if it does not resemble each other, then it is known as what? Asymmetric. Asymmetric or asymmetrical objects. Symmetrical objects, that is, objects that divide itself into two equal parts. There are some that cannot divide itself into two equal parts. Like we mentioned of trapezium, that's an isosceles trapezium. An isosceles trapezium can divide itself into two equal parts. But in the case of a scalene trapezium, in the place of a scalene trapezium, it cannot divide itself into two equal parts. Like now, I want to divide this side of my face. If I come through the other eye instead of through the nose, I come through the eye, you will discover that this part will be more than this other part. Is that not? Then that object is asymmetrical because it does not match each other perfectly. But if the object can match each other perfectly, then it is symmetric. That is symmetrical objects. You can try and get objects, and try to use your imaginary line to divide it into two equal parts. Can you see this trapezium on the screen? We use line of symmetry, an imaginary line, to divide it into two equal parts. Is that okay? And we have an asymmetric object here. An asymmetric object. Can you see that the two parts are not equal? They are not equal. That's why it is asymmetrical. That's why it is an asymmetrical object. Asymmetric. We have come to the end of the class. Make sure you write your notes. Watch the video attentively. Write your notes and keep safe. Keep safe. It is very, very important. Keep safe. And God will keep us safe. We'll meet in peace. Don't pump too much on mom and dad. That's okay. Make sure you make maximum use of this time because the time will so pass away. Yes. So make sure you use the optimum use of the time. Don't while away the time. Don't play around. Is that taking? Make sure you use your time judiciously, and the good Lord will keep you. Bye. Madam loves you.